Good morning, everybody. It is Spiritual Healthcare Day 26. Day 26. Isn't that insane? That's crazy. It's crazy. We've been doing this for 26 days. It has been so much fun and is going to continue to be so much fun. So welcome to day 26, you guys. This is just, it's amazing the response that you guys have had over the last number of weeks, and I'm so honored to be able to come and do this with you guys every morning. And we see new faces all the time, and we see our regulars back all the time, and I absolutely love it. It's such a pleasure to be able to interact live with everybody. And to be able to do this every morning. I mean, thank God for technology and Facebook and all of these different things. So we've got some cool subjects today to chat about. The main topic overall being the subconscious mind. Do we have one, and what is it? And what does it mean for paranormal research, right? So we're gonna chat about that. We're gonna chat about the subconscious and how that influences life and hauntings and whatnot. I got a number of questions about it over email and in the Facebook groups and all of that kind of thing. So I thought that would be a great way to launch today. Good morning, Mark. How are you? Good morning, everybody who's logging in. It's nice to see you. Say hey in the chat box. I always let people know. Good morning, Dan. I always let people know that if you guys have questions or anything like that, again, throw them into the chat. Even if I don't get to them today, I always go back through and try to find them and make sure I'm grabbing them for the next day. So please throw them in the chat box or tweet me or email me or whatever is easiest. Because eventually we will get to all of them. We will get to all of them. Some of them I just kind of save up because they all get grouped together in some ways, like they're all dealing with one subject or something like that. So good morning, Nigel. Good morning, Patricia. It's good to see everybody this morning. And as I say, we're going to be talking about the subconscious and how it gets in our way and how it can influence a haunting and all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about all of that this afternoon and what it means in parapsychology, because there's implications there as well. And I've got such a cool process for you guys today as well, for those of you guys who are interested in sort of testing out your own intuitive and psychic abilities. I've got a really cool process for you guys this afternoon that you can download to your phones. So I'm excited to give you that too. It's going to be really good. So yeah, we've got, good morning, Des. How are you? Good to see everybody. Yeah, so as I say, we've got lots to chat about. The subconscious is such an interesting area to branch into, because when we think about the subconscious, good morning, Michael. He's got a great question. Something to add to your list for later. Wanted to know your take on hauntings happening at night versus the daytime. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, we can sort of work that in even this afternoon, because as we're kind of talking about the role that our consciousness plays on hauntings and things like that, that actually quite applies. It's funny, because when we start to talk about the subconscious, we also have to add in things like altered states and the research that's been done in regards to things like altered states and whatnot, because psi phenomena oftentimes will be more prevalent or will happen more often during times where we're in like a hypnagogic state, so when we're like kind of drifting off to sleep, or a hypnopompic state when we're kind of popping back out of sleep. So there's a number of different altered states or different states of consciousness that really do play a role in things like experiencing paranormal phenomena. And just being really more in touch with our surroundings in general, right? Because so much of the time, we're so plugged into our phones, or we're plugged into, the noise around us, or the TV, or what's going on, or the stress in our own brains, that being able to take the time to do a meditation or be still or anything like that, oftentimes that's just, it's sort of an afterthought, right? So when we're talking about things like the subconscious, it's become a big role in parapsychology especially with individuals such as Sigmund Freud, for instance. Most people think that Sigmund Freud was not a paranormal enthusiast at all. They've always kind of brushed him off to be, oh no, the guy's, he's such a materialist, and the psychoanalytics leave no room for the paranormal, and that was simply not true. Sigmund Freud was actually highly interested in psychic phenomenon and paranormal phenomenon, and was really fascinated by the work of Carl Jung, because Carl Jung and both he and Carl were very close colleagues, and he was fascinated by some of the things that Carl Jung was uncovering as well, but he kind of let Jung do his own thing. He kind of let him branch out and do all the dirty work, where Freud kind of sat back a little bit, because I think he was a bit afraid that his colleagues and whatever at the time would just think he was off his rocker. He got a lot of criticism, for example, for people coming and saying, well, if you've got space for paranormal and psi phenomenon in your processes, what does that mean for psychoanalytics, right? So he took a lot of heat for that and kind of backed off the subject, but there's lots of texts that suggest that he was actually pretty interested. So good morning, Dawn. Good morning, Jay. Good morning, everybody that's still coming in. It's so nice to see you guys. It's so nice to see everybody logging in and just and enjoying our mornings. It's just great. So when we start to think about the subconscious, we often branch into researchers like Julia Mossbridge, who really took it into account things like, well, what does it mean? What does it mean when we are we actually pulling things from part of our mind that is just, stashing and stuffing and storing memories, or is the subconscious something more than even that? And I want to start off actually with something that's kind of interesting. It was a question from Dan this morning. It was really that came in quite early, and I thought this was a great additive to what we're talking about. And he had asked, I don't know if there's a glitch in the matrix, but the last 24 hours have been a little odd. Not only did I fall asleep way too early for me, as I usually take advantage of quiet time while everyone goes to sleep. Apparently some mechanism only allows me about 6 hours of sleep. Woke up at about 4 with a gnawing impression that something is wrong, but for the life of me, I can't figure out what it is. Short of cold calling people for a check-in, at which it was too early, and I haven't a clue. Is everyone else feeling out of whack today? So this is kind of cool, because what they are, when we get into things like this sort of broad overview of some people are saying they lost me. If you guys lost me, can you guys still see me? Hopefully you guys still see me. I'm gonna make sure you guys can still see me. Hold on. There we go. Hopefully now you guys can plug back in. Sometimes the connection in the mornings is a little wacky, so hopefully you guys can come back here. There we go. Okay, I'm seeing people find me again. This is good. Here we go. Okay, so hopefully we have people back here. Can bring it back in. All right. As I say, Facebook sometimes is a little bit on the glitchy side, so hopefully you guys can still see me. I glitched, Mark says. I glitched. I know. I'm hoping, I hope it's fixed now. Hope it's fixed. So anyway, yeah, everybody's saying there's all glitches. Maybe switch your page and log back in. There we go. We'll have to see the replay and get what we missed. It's okay. You didn't miss much. I caught you guys when you said it glitched, so I will just go back a couple. I will go back a couple of sentences. So Dan's question had to do with the idea that groups of people have been feeling kind of out of whack, or their sleeping schedules have been off and things like that. And I had this brought up to me a little while ago from start back from 3 minutes ago, Mark says. Okay. So I think this will cover the last 3 minutes. So Dan is asking, has anybody else felt out of whack today, and over the last little while? And I think there's a couple of reasons for this. And so we've been talking about the subconscious mind. We've been talking about the idea that it's, there's maybe there's a global consciousness. We've been talking about that over the last number of weeks. And what's interesting was that one of the biohackers on Twitter, Ben Greenfield, he brought this up actually on one of his tweets. And he was mentioning the fact that this was happening to him as well. So this health, he's kind of a health nut and whatever, but he was finding the same thing. Now, what's interesting is that over the last little while with the COVID pandemic, COVID-19, the Global Consciousness Project has been paying attention to fluxes within the global consciousness. They use a random number generator to check whether or not people are, if that people's focus into something on an emotional level, even if it is subconscious, if they check into that, if those random numbers are fluctuating. So it's really interesting because when we get into something like the subconscious, how subconscious is it really if we're still emotionally attached to it? So this is where the debate about the subconscious mind really starts to play in. But no, Dan, you are not the only one that has felt things kind of fluxing and going back and forth. And it's been kind of weird. So don't feel like you're the only one that's experiencing this, because people have been reporting that, yeah, there seemed to be this flux, and the Global Consciousness Project has been registering that fluctuation is happening. So there's probably a number of reasons for it. We've got, of course, got major stressors right now. They first started to notice it when the stock markets crashed, when the stock markets went down. Then they began to really notice that fluctuation for the RNGs. So it's interesting whether or not that has something to do with, people's sleep schedules being funny or waking up in the middle of the night or whatever. But they are starting to notice that there is a correlation to that. So it very well might have something to do with this. So the subconscious, I'm going to get to the next question here because I thought it was great. Both Jan and Brian sent me this morning, Brian sent me this a few days ago. Jan sent me this, I think, yesterday. But I'm going to read Brian's question because I think it's really pertinent. I'm curious if you guys have ever heard about something called universal subconscious. I think that's what it's called, but it's basically the theory that we as humans sometimes recognize or know certain things that they couldn't know because it's embedded in our subconscious as a species. Either it's embedded in us at birth or it's an energy that we can tap into. And I always thought that was really interesting. I love this question because, as I say, we start to look at things like the Global Consciousness Project and we begin to see that, there is something to this. So when we take a look at the studies by Julia Mossbridge, by the Rhine Research Center from Duke University, even places like the Windbridge Institute and things like that, we start to see there is absolutely a correlation between people's altered states and the ability to find that place of meditation, to find that place of peace. When we start to look at things like the Gansfeld experiments, you guys probably remember seeing some of those on like movies like Ghostbusters, where they put somebody in a room with like ping pong balls over their eyes and they lay there and they have to receive imagery from a person called the sender who's in another room, and they're receiving different imagery by listening to usually water, like meditative music or water, things like that. So when we start to look at something like this, the big question does become, are we tapping into something else, or are we tapping into our subconscious? And I think the answer to some of this actually lies in the information that's being received. So for example, a lot of the people that are receiving bits and pieces of information aren't receiving things that they already know or have learned in the past. They're receiving information from other locations, such as remote viewing, where they're actually seeing or picking up on something that might be thousands and thousands of miles away. When we look at things like a mediumship, for instance, and people tapping into, a location or things like that, and they're picking up names and dates they haven't known before. So where are they getting it from? Are they getting it from the subconscious, or are they getting it from something else in the environment? And if we start to think about this, like the universe is able to hold thought, that every thought that's ever been thought is still in existence. We know energy cannot be created or destroyed. So what happens with the energy that those thoughts are creating, because they actually do create a measurable signal, is it possible for us to then tap into something like that? So there's a pile of questions that come around with this, and Jan's question added on to what he was Brian was saying as well. And she asked, would you be willing to address how the subconscious mind likes to interfere when you're trying to make changes? So this is where we get into yesterday's topic a little bit, right? So yesterday, what we talked about legacies, and we talked about the idea that, our thought processes, for example, are really oftentimes passed down to us or learned. And in hauntings, when I'm dealing with clients or anything like that, clients they become so regimented sometimes in what they want and what they want in their environment, how they want things to be handled, and what they think should be happening. So when it comes to things like making big changes in our lives, this is one of the reasons why I think the journaling and the processes and looking at where we are is so important. Because ultimately, if a thought is really that subconscious, we really don't have that emotional attachment to it, right? We really don't. Our emotional attachment is to thoughts that we are holding present. We don't have that same emotional attachment to something that is subconscious. So I think when we are looking at, making changes to our experience, we have to start challenging those tapes. Much of the time when I'm dealing with, as I say, clients in haunting situations, what ends up happening is that they will turn around and they start arguing for their limitations. I can't do this because this was taught to me, or I can't do this because, I believe this is going to happen and I'm not willing to hear differently. So we get this kind of rigid thinking. And, it's really important to begin to start to examine what those tapes are. We tend to believe ourselves, right? We really do. And when we've got something that's been a paradigm that's been in our heads for a really long time, it becomes a big problem because we typically don't want to let that go. We think it's right. We don't want to challenge it because we feel like we've had all these experiences to back it up. And we have to be willing to stop, to live from the current moment and be willing to do different. We have to be willing to do different, and you have to be willing to challenge those tapes, because if we don't, then we literally get nowhere. And ultimately, that's the heart of parapsychology. Can we start to challenge the tapes that have been laid out by society, by beliefs, by science, the scientific world sometimes? Can we start to challenge what's out there and start to make those changes despite whatever it is that we've been taught? And I think when we start to change those paradigms, we start to make shifts in our subconscious mind. We start to make shifts in our day-to-day experiences, and we start to rewrite some of those tapes that we've got going. It's a long process. It can be really challenging, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. We talked yesterday about the idea that being able to open up and to have those perceptive experiences really does require people, being a little bit more open, people who are, a little bit more outgoing when it comes to opening ourselves to try some of these new things and challenge the paradigms that we know. We know that the people that are like this have statistically more experiences with the paranormal. So it's something that we really do have to pay attention to. Does it play a role with hauntings? Of course it does. What we believe and our state of expectation and the tapes that we've got going on, of course it's going to play a role in what it is we experience, and not just with hauntings, but with our life in general. So when we look at things like mediumship and precognition and the state of being we have to be in order to experience some of this stuff, the ability to take a step back and meditate, and whatever, all of that is going to play a role in what it is we're doing. And the more disconnected we are from that, then either the less we're going to experience, or the stuff that we do experience, it's not very fun. We tend to get the negative end of the stick at that point. So, it's an interesting balance, but in order to start to, I think, rewrite and create those changes, we have to be conscious of what it is we're doing. And I think the idea sometimes of writing it off completely as something that's just subconscious isn't always benefiting us. We have to be able to turn around and examine why we're doing what we're doing. If something has gone wrong over and over and over and over and over again, then the common denominator is you. So we've got to be able to at least control what we've got. So yes, some people are logging back in. Jan, it's okay. I know you missed stuff. Don't worry. There is a playback. It will be online. Don't worry. And we got to your question too. So that's awesome. So I don't know. Facebook is being wacky this morning, you guys. I think it's just the way this is going to be for the next while. We all know the systems, I think, are kind of overloaded and whatever right now. So we're gonna have to deal. But all the playbacks, you guys, all the time, they're always on both EntitySeeker.ca, the main website, and at youtube.com/EntitySeeker as well. So all the playbacks are there. So if you guys, if something happens or something glitches and you miss something, don't worry. The playbacks are always on right after I get offline with you guys. I upload them, so within 10 minutes of doing the class, they're always online. So never fear about that. So I wanted to give you guys some cool things today. In regards to the subconscious, Mark says he's going to fix it for me. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Mark. And one of the first things that I want to give you guys and offer you guys is a reading from our book, Faith in the Valley, by Jan van Zandt. Fantastic book, you guys. If you don't have it, I highly recommend ordering it. It's really amazing. So the reading, I think, today is really important, because it's really about understanding that the more that we can celebrate every part of who we are and every part of ourselves right now, embrace as much of yourself as you can, the better that this is going to get for everybody. So it's not a matter of, being able to cure the world right now. It's too many moving parts, can't do it. But we can turn around and start to make our impact in where we are and what we're doing important and meaningful to the people that we do end up connecting with, whether it be online or, on the street, at the store, whatever it is. Because, right now, social distancing makes things a little tough. But making these impacts meaningful, and I think it's something that we have to really start thinking about. So I want to read you guys this, because it's pretty cool. When you are feeling down, celebrate your spirit. The essence of life in your body, celebrating your spirit, is celebrating life. The ability to have, to be, and to do is embedded in your spirit. In this life, we are bound to earth by the physical body. In spirit, we are bound to the sky, the moon, the stars, the universe, and the Creator. Spirit is the life force of the Creator as it uniquely expresses itself through you. Now that is something to celebrate. Celebration of spirit requires reflection and anticipation. Reflection reminds you of where you've been. Anticipation allows you to keep moving forward. Spirit inspires you to do better, ask for more, expect the best for yourself. Never allow the temporary setback or minor disappointment to dampen the celebration of life. Through spirit, you are divine. In this life, you are spirit, and celebrate what you are. And I think, as I say, so much of what we've been going through is really calling us higher. It's funny, because when we get into this stuff, and we often so much we very much think that our how we're dealing with things and impacting things and whatnot, especially right now because we've got all this social distancing going on, is something that is, it's just impacting me, or I'm just the one experiencing it. And that's just simply not true. And when we start to look at things like the Global Consciousness Project, we can start to see the fact that, no, wait a minute, our state of being really does make that a big deal. You know, it really does. Our state of mind and our focus does impact something larger. And I think that's such a brilliant example of what that ends up looking like. So how we look after ourselves, what we're dealing with in our heads, how we're processing those thoughts, challenging the thoughts that aren't serving us anymore, is just so crucial. So I wanted to give you guys a really neat process today, and it's something you guys can actually download to your phone. It's called the Psi3 app. Okay, so Psi3, so PSI3. I'll post the link on the EntitySeeker page. And this app was actually developed by the IONS, or the Institute of Noetic Sciences, with Dr. Dean Radin, for those of you guys who know Dean Radin. And it's a fantastic app that was Julia Mossberg. She had a hand in this also, and it's to start. It's to let people start to play with any psi abilities that they actually have. And it was developed by, I mean, obviously Julia Mossberg. She's one of the best, I think, neuroscientists out there, to start to play around with, hey, how in tune are we? And it's a free app. You can download it to your phone and just have fun with it. It's really, really cool. So I'm going to send you guys the link to that. It used to be called PsyQ, which was like a play on the word IQ. But I believe it's listed as Psi3 now. I think they've done some updates and whatnot. But it's really fun. So it'll give you guys a chance to kind of play around. Hopefully it's not too buggy. I think it's okay. It was the last time I was playing around with it. It was pretty fun. So I will pass that on to you guys. I will post the link on EntitySeeker, so you guys can grab that, because it's really neat. So now that being said, I want to give you guys a to-do as well, because I thought this was the neatest thing. I found this late last night, because I thought, man, there's so much that we don't get to experience, and we see it on TV, or we see it on, history shows and stuff like that. And now with the pandemic going on and social isolation, all of these countries have really gone out of their way to try to put so many of their treasures just on display, so that we can go and visit all through the computer, all through the internet. And the one that really caught me the other night was the tour of the Rose City, the treasury. So this is in Jordan, you guys. And it was the actual model for those of you who are Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit fans. This was the model for Erebor, the dwarf fortress of Erebor. And it's absolutely it's got to be one of the most incredible places that you guys will ever check out. It is literally carved into the side of a mountain, and it's an entire building, city. It's absolutely magnificent. As I say, for those of you who have seen The Hobbit, it's one of my favorite films. You guys will connect with this immediately. You'll see the resemblance. But it's one of these beautiful historical places, and it was filled with the nomadic Arabians who populated it at one time, and it's absolutely incredible. So it is in Petra, and the neat thing about this tour is that the Queen of Jordan, Queen Rania of Jordan, is the one who ended up going there and helping Google Earth film this tour. So it really is firsthand with the Queen. I mean, you can't really get too much cooler than that. So I want you guys to go check it out. As I will post the links once we're done to EntitySeeker, so you guys can check that out. It's really cool. That being said, I'm sorry there was Facebook glitches today, you guys. As I say, the playback for all of this is going to be on EntitySeeker.ca, as well as YouTube.com/EntitySeeker, so you guys can grab it there, and whatnot. But please keep sending in your questions. I love your questions. They are so good. They're so good. And every day it's like the questions get better and they get more in depth, and it's fantastic. So it's great to be able to tackle them. there's still more coming in, so please send in your ideas. And even if you don't have a question, if you want to discuss something, if you've got a topic you want to tackle, send me that, because those have been fantastic as well. That would be really awesome as well. So send in the topics. All right, so guys, we got to do our health affirmations, at least, because we have to go into our day with the right headspace. So everybody take a breath. It is natural for my body to be well. Even if I don't know what to do in order to get better, my body does. I have trillions of cells with individual consciousness, and they know how to achieve individual balance. When this condition began, I didn't know what I know now. I don't need to understand the cause of this illness. I only have to gently, eventually release this illness. It doesn't matter how it got started, because it's reversing its course right now. There's no hurry about any of this. My body knows what to do, and well-being is natural to me. My inner being is intricately aware of my physical body. My cells are asking for what they need in order to thrive, and Source is answering those requests. I'm in very good hands. My only work is to relax and breathe, and I can do that easily. So everybody take a breath. Thank you guys so much for another wonderful morning of spiritual healthcare. I love doing this with you guys every single day. It is such a blessing and a gift, and it's wonderful. Tomorrow we're going to delve in again to some really new topics and some really fun things. But if there's anything that you guys want to cover, as I say, please email me, let me know, and we will make sure that all gets out there, so that you guys, that we can have those discussions and talk about the things that you guys really want to talk about, because there's so much when it comes to this field. There's just so much to do. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Shadow. That's so kind of you. Anybody that you guys can recommend to, and bring people into this circle, so that they've got that consistency. And I love being able to do this. It provides me so much joy, and I love being able to share that with you, all of you, because it's really fantastic. So thank you guys so much again, and I will see you guys tomorrow right back here on Spiritual Healthcare, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. See you guys later.